everybody. Welcome to episode
What's up, guys?
5 of the Two Old Guys Reselling Podcast. 65.
65.
Right on down the line, we are a trucking, and we are rolling today and doing a little simulcast recording. This is for down here, the guys on my channel, just to give them an inside view of what happens over here on the Two Old Guys Reselling Podcast. We just hang out and goof off most of the time. Look here.
Yeah.
Mr. Terry. Mr. Terry's going to start video.
Same for me, right? So there's our, let me get this right.
Yep.
There we are.
You videoing us. There we go. I got you.
So
there you are.
Yeah, I've been videoing today kind of a day in my life as a reseller, because I think sometimes there's this thought or idea that maybe, it's this laid back, easy existence. And I know we've all got life, man, going on. I don't try to make out like mine is busier or more involved than everyone else's, but yeah, I mean, you really think about it. And sometimes when I go back through my day, some days I'm overwhelmed and I feel like I get nothing done. But the days that I'm really productive, when I start going through kind of the Rolodex of everything that I've done that day, I begin to think, my goodness, how did I do this? We both use a CPAP. I don't know if you ever look at your little sleep schedule, like when it tells you how much you slept. I was rolling through mine the other night. I was just curious. Hadn't looked at it in a very long time. And I went back and I did like the last 6 months where it calculates your average sleep. Mine was barely 5 hours a night. That's not counting the amount of time that I wasn't sleeping well, because usually that's what, about close to half an hour for me, on average a night that the machine's having to help me, get back to breathing correctly. So, that's average of 5 hours or less of sleep. So, that's 19 hours. That's 19 hours of going, on that's average.
Not good, Josh. Not good.
Well, I mean, it is what it is.
5 hours. Man, you got to go to bed. I know you don't stay up and talk all night. That can't be.
No, honestly, and I'll probably in my video this week that I'm filming, I'll probably hit on this some. I really try to, I try to have a time of day where I stop with everything else, and I do, because I do cook most every day. I mean, I think I've said that. I'm not trying to, by the way, I cook. I'm not trying to say that, but whenever I come to my close for the day, that's my next step. So then it becomes about family. So I begin working on dinner. And as soon as I'm finished with dinner, a lot of times, my wife is either, because 3 days a week, mom goes to carrying days. And so she's either bringing her in, or she maybe when she gets home is having to help her get her bath to get ready, that kind of thing. And so she's pretty busy. I try to time it to where by the time she's in and settled and everything with mom is done, that we can all sit down and eat. And so it's not super early because of our schedule. It's going to be like 7 o'clock or after. But when we sit down to eat, we eat, we relax, we get in the recliner or something like that, and just kind of take it easy and visit for an hour or two. And then, she goes to bed, and generally most evenings she goes to bed, and then I get up and I list some more, I maybe turn some content on and I go back to work again. And so then I get up when she gets up, or right as she's leaving, getting ready to go, I get back up and I get back at it again the next morning. So
that sounds like a very busy schedule.
It can be.
Yeah, I slept till 7:30 today. I actually slept pretty late.
Oh man.
For me, that's 7:30, 8 o'clock is late for me now.
Yeah.
Tanya, that she had to go to work early today because I don't think I've even told you about this yet. Her cousin was in an automobile accident in Nevada. They were on vacation. A drunk driver basically hit him. I mean, just pretty much head on. Broke his wrist and hand and messed up an ankle. And his wife broke her sternum, like just bad stuff. But
oh man,
but they're okay.
Yeah.
So it could have been a whole lot worse. But so the parents had to fly from here to basically into California and then go down and get them and then bring them back home. But the problem was they flew out there, so they couldn't get a rental car. They couldn't get a hotel hardly for nothing. And when they finally got to where they could get tickets again, it was going to be $900 a person. And there was 6 of them.
Ooh.
And I'm like, oh my gosh,
$5
$5,000 to get home. So her aunt tells the story that they all start praying, like, how are we going to get home? We got to figure this out. And they finally figured it out, and they got their tickets down to like $300 per person. So I was like, wow, that's a whole lot better.
That's a lot different. Yeah. That's a lot different.
A whole lot better. But yeah, episode 65.
That's it.
I'm going to cut out my guys now. It's a little inside for people to see what we do over here. And we have fun and we have a good time and ramble a whole lot.
Yeah, a little bit. We were talking about that before the show started. We are, I guess, in a sense, we are a reselling podcast. At least that's the origin from before I was a part of the podcast. But I think even when it was you and OSP, y'all still talked about a lot of other stuff. It was never just, it was more, laid back than I think some are. And there's a niche pretty much for everything, but I like that, a lot of times ours is more variety. I think that's just kind of who we are. We just try to stay true to who we are and what we are.
Keep it real.
Yeah. I mean, really, that's the goal at the end of the day. It's hard to be so.
You know who we are?
Who?
In the reselling world, we're the outsiders.
Okay. I thought you were going to say the nobodies.
That too.
Nobody's from nowhere.
Nobody's, yeah. Yeah, we'll take the title of the outsiders. That's some of my favorite wrestlers of all times right there.
Yeah. I don't know that I'm tall enough to be either one of those.
Keep showing off my Bojangles WWE cup. I got 8 of those now, or 9, I think.
I actually, part of my day today, which wasn't planned, on the way to FET, I mentioned this a while back, but the first larger, like totes of CDs that I bought 2 totes full, and I bought them from this lady that's on the way to this small town that we live close to, who buys storage lockers and resells. And so she would set up like every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, she would be set up. And then this last spring and then this summer, I had not seen her set up at all. I've been watching. She's got a little carport area where she'll move all her stuff to get ready to set up. And I hadn't seen anything. So I just assumed that they had quit doing it. And so I came by today and she had a bunch of stuff out in the yard. And so I turned back around. I was driving like I was going to get somewhere, and so I went down to the next spot I could and I whipped around and went back because I've done pretty good there in the past, and got out. And it was a while before she came out. She just came out and sat on her steps and then walked over and started talking. And she's only set up twice this year so far. But she said she's just been really busy, but they have bought a bunch of stuff up and they got other stores that they keep it in. So they're getting ready as the weather starts to cool to start having regular setups again. So anyway, I said all that to say this. You mentioned your cups. And one of the things when I stopped there, so I got like 6, I think it was, wrestling DVDs, like 4 of them were ECW there. And then she also had there were a bunch of hardcover books like the Mick Foley, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Shawn Michaels, like their hardcover, stories that you buy. So, I mean, they were a quarter a piece, 4 for $1. So I got, I think, like 12 of them. And so I'll probably sell them as a lot. I sold where there were several, like lots of 4 to 6. They were selling for like $25, $30. So I'll put them all together, put about 30 or 40 bucks on them. But they're really cool. The artwork on them and stuff is really cool stuff. So,
yeah, I like I'm not much of a reader, but I like the look of some of that stuff. If you're a wrestling fan, having those books in a bookcase is kind of a cool little, little thing to see. And the DVDs, I could go back. I know we ain't to the wrestling part of the show yet, but I could go back to my childhood. Me and my best friend would tape trade some, and I got to where at one time I had like probably 150 VHS tapes of. It got so bad though. Listen,
you know how much those would be worth right now?
Well, most of them was pirated.
I know that's how they all are when you record them off of TV.
That's how
you could say it was for the commercials and sell them. I mean, that's what people do. All their old episodes they recorded, really. I mean, they just sell them as old TV dubs for commercials or whatever. Anyway, just saying.
No, I had so many of those, but I got to the point where when I was older, I didn't use my brain. I didn't think and I don't have them anymore, but I didn't think I'd want to watch, like whatever show from 5 years before.
Right.
I started recording over the old ones. So I ended up losing probably 15 or 20 of them that way. But I remember way back in the day. So this will bring it back to being a reselling podcast today. Way back in the day, I bought a lot, an auction lot on eBay. This is probably around the year 99, 98, somewhere in there. And I bought this 20 tape lot, say, it's 20, 15, 20 tapes. And I got them for probably, it was somewhere like $30. Maybe with shipping and everything, let's just say $40. I can't remember exactly, but it was back then. So it wouldn't have been too awful bad. So I get it. I'm undoing the box. I'm looking at all these tapes and I'm like, man, I think this one right here on eBay is like a $30 tape by itself. So I go over and look. I'm looking on eBay and I find, back then it's auctions, and I find the tape on auction and it's up to $30-something. And I'm like, man, he just sold me this whole box of tapes and this one is worth that much money. So guess what I did? I threw it back on eBay and I made about 95% of my money back.
Yeah.
And then I had all those tapes for free. Now, that's what eBay was good for back in the day. Now it's a little bit too big to be able to do a whole lot of that. You get away with it every now and then, but,
I mean, actually, there's a lot more. I think you've got to really be on top of things, but there's a lot of people. I know J-Rod talks about it a lot. He sources a ton off of eBay. There's a lot of people just like, Kevin is doing with the Shop Commons thing, trying to create an outlet for resellers. When you get a great buy on a lot of items that you don't really want to go through, like a lot of people don't like listing music. I've been listing a ton of music. And so, if it's at least, say close to $10 or more a piece, there's a ton of value in it to list them all individually. But a lot of people out there, their goal is average sale price, $45, $50, and they are not interested in that. And then there's people that only deal in media or only deal in music. And so it's a great outlet for them if they come across a box full at a yard sale for $5 and they can turn around and flip it for 50 or 75, like on Shop Commons, or maybe in an auction environment on eBay, ship the entirety off to somebody that's going to sort through it, check it, clean them up, buff them out if they need to be resurfaced or whatever, do all that work, because they're going to list them individually or in smaller sets and collections. And there's still a lot of money to be made. The person buying it the second time may still triple or quadruple their money in the process if they put the work in to do that. So, I think it's there. I think it's different. I think there's probably not as many like just total home runs necessarily. But, if we're looking at margins, it all depends on the margins. I mean, if you're able to source without leaving your home and have it delivered to you, then, you think about the time you would spend on the road, the amount of money you'd spend in gas, the wear and tear on your vehicle, all these other costs. Even though we can write some of it off, there's still there's parts of that you never recoup, and especially your time. So if you're never having to leave the comfort of your home where you can continue listing, the box gets dropped off, you got more inventory to keep working. I mean, there's something to be said there. If you got a little bit smaller margin, but you're able to be much more efficient, you may make more money in the end, especially depending on the type of inventory it is. If it's higher dollar inventory, and you're moving it fast moving items.
Okay, I'll go buy something if Kevin will list it for me for free. You think that'll happen? You think, Kevin, you're watching, I know you are, back in here lurking. Will you list that stuff for free if I buy it? Like, I want an answer. No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, I do agree. Like, it's kind of like sometimes on Whatnot, if you just have a few minutes to kind of pop into shows, especially shows like what I put on. I've done 2 Whatnot shows and I had 30, 40 people in the first one, 20 people in the second one. So people was getting stuff for good prices. I ended up doing, like I was doing hat by hat. I had 10 or 15 hats and nobody was buying those hats. So at the end of the show, I threw all the hats in together, like 15 hats, and they sold for like $8. So somebody paid literally 50 cents a hat, and they could go right back and source those hats and make money on eBay, which is fine. I totally understand that, and I know that's what happens. If you're on Whatnot, you basically know that you're probably going to have a certain percentage of your audience is people looking at the resellability of your stuff. And that is what places like that have become. And kudos to Kevin for having the wherewithal to kind of see ahead and do something like that.
Yeah.
Shop
Well, I think that's where something like you said, the hats, because if you had a quarter in them, you probably still lost money on your original investment. So that's the thing. I think that's where like the shop commons versus whatnot could be really beneficial. But even the eBay auctions, if you set the price, if you go out and you're able to source really cheap at yard sale and you're not a hat person, you don't want to. Plus, hats oftentimes move slow unless it's just there's certain ones I know, vintage and things. But I'm saying as a general rule, just a nice 5950 new era hat. Overall, if you list 10 of them, they're not going to sell in 2 weeks unless you're giving them away.
Right.
So to try to, not maximize your profit, but make, what it actually sells for, it's going to take time. They're slow movers for the most part. All that being said, if you're able to source, 25 hats in one weekend at an average of 25 cents to $1 a piece, and then you can put them on something like Shop Commons, for say, $3 each, when they're like $12 to $15 hats on eBay sold individually, then someone is it OBX that does a lot of hats? I think there's some. Which one is it?
OBX, Tim, Cerno.
Yeah, some of them some of those guys do a lot of hats. I mean, that's one of their big things.
Cernock is the hat guy.
Okay.
I mean, Tim and OBX do them too, but Cernock is the guru.
He was the rehab guy on them, right? Did a lot of that. Didn't he do videos on that, like how to rehab them and stuff?
Yeah, he showed up and he went to Kevin's shop and did a video with him there at the Commonwealth Cabin. Sorry, I'm trying to think. And he was showing, like some of the materials to use. And he's actually the reason I bought a steamer. Like he had his hat on a form, just like what I have one that you would sell, take your pictures of it sitting on the head form. Yeah. And he would just stick them on there and he would steam them on the form where they would reform to that rounded shape. And I mean, it was a pretty good information. And OxyClean, he showed that trick. Right. OxyClean, if you know what you're doing, and I don't, he showed how you could take OxyClean, and I think it was Don, and clean those hats. And he showed some before and afters. And man, I'm telling you, if you guys are into hats, go check out Cernock's Connection. He knows what he's talking about. Or Tim over the years, or OBX Picker Eric, those guys, and Leroy Blood, Sweat, and Smells. They all know what it's RIN. I'm about to say it wrong. Yes, I know.
Blood, Sweat, and Swell.
Yeah. Sorry, Leroy. But the RIN, for other lack of a better term. Yeah. The Reseller Information Network, those guys are really good at, Cernock does quite a bit of clothing too. So, you and him would have a lot to talk about, but they're good.
I've watched all of them some, but I've never met any of those guys in person yet. So trying to keep them all straight, you know how it is. There gets to be so many people and so many channels in the Rolodex, even when you've watched them several times.
It's hard.
Remembering specialties and stuff like that can be tough. But I knew most of them have been to Kevin's shop before, and I knew that several of them work with hats. But again, the point being, you can through Shop Commons or through maybe an eBay auction, maybe with those lots, there's still money to be made for someone that wants to flip them fast. And maybe just, I think that's part of what Kevin was wanting to do. There's got to be enough meat left on the bone for it to be worthwhile. Right. But if I can get them, like I said, for say an average of 50 cents a piece, and I get 20 hats, well, I got $10 in them. So if I can turn around and sell them for $25 or $30 and get them out the door, I've made quick money on them. I don't have to mess with them. I don't have to take pictures of all of them. It's just there's benefit in that if you're trying to move inventory and you're able to source plenty of inventory.
So that's a good question to ask our audience, and they can comment down below. Since we're 20 minutes in, I think we'll have some people. And this is, a lot of people may disagree. I think it's a fairly smart move because it, like we've talked about, it liquidates some of your slower moving stuff. And if you have a ton of room, ton of space that you can afford to pack all that stuff in and wait a year, okay. But if you don't, if you're limited, like me and you are both limited, I have about 400 square feet. You've got that big old building out there, but I know you're not using it yet. Right. But so, when you're limited, here's the question for you all that are commenting. Is Kevin Commonwealth Picker smart to do that, or is he dumb to do that? Because I don't think he's dumb. I'm not saying that, but, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of opinions. People say, well, if you can make the $12, make the $12. Okay. Like I just said, I get that. But at the same time, Do you want the most money or the quickest money? It's a subjective question to how you want to do the business on that item. If it's $100 item, yeah, I may not sell it for $10. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
But like what you're just saying, and hats are a very good example of if I've got 50 hats that are worth $10 a piece, okay, that's a $500 value. Now, if I sell that for $100 to you, I got the money quick, and you can sit on it and make the most money. So that's good business. I feel like that's good business.
Yeah.
Because it's win-win, you know.
Well, here's the thing. I think this is what we got to remember. You know, how hard is it to find a hat that's worth $10 to $12? I mean,
not too awful hard.
I mean, if you get out and you go to yard sales every weekend during the spring and the fall, how many $10 to $12 hats are you going to be able to find? If you're in thrift stores, you're not spending over $2 to $3 per hat. How many $10 to $12 hats can you buy over the course of a year? I mean, it's a lot. Well, so if you're not someone that's really interested in selling hats that are worth $10, $12, $15, $20 even, you know, then I mean, those are run of the mill. That's not something that you have a hard time finding. You know, if you run up on a shark tooth hat, that's the right team, especially the right team or the right organization, something like that. You know, I mean, that's a whole different ball game. You know, if you run up on a very unique vintage hat, you know, Sports Specialties or Logo 7, something like that, that's got, you know, a $75, $100, $150, or maybe $200 or $300 price tag on it. I mean, granted, none of us that are resellers are going to throw that hat in the lot of 50 and sell it for $100.
I don't know.
Nobody's going to do that.
I might do that a time or two.
Well, not on purpose, you know. We're not going to do it on purpose. But
no,
you know,
I make those mistakes though.
Sure. I mean, we can, but you get what I'm saying. I mean, I think the point of it is whether it's Shot Cummins or the other, when you're sourcing like that, I think most of the time anyway, you pretty much know what you're getting. You know, you're not getting like the cherries have been picked, you know, so to speak, out of the lot. But, you know, and saying that, you know, they say, well, we don't want to be cherry picked over. But, you know, when I'm not saying take all the $20 hats out. I'm talking about, you know, nobody's going to leave the $100 hat in there. Nobody's going to do that.
Right.
I mean, that's just obvious. Just like if it's music, if there's a $300 record, that one's going to be pulled out. But if all the rest of them are $15, $20 records that sell, that move versus $5 records that you can't get rid of, you know, I mean,
absolutely.
That's good inventory for someone. And for someone that doesn't want to pack and ship records, doesn't want to store them, doesn't want to list them, doesn't want to go through the hassle, again, whatever it may be, that's just, I think, a great avenue to acquire bulk of inventory to increase the size of your store.
That would be a really good way to niche down if you wanted to niche down too, because what you just said with records, I know around here, if I wanted to be a record seller, I could be a record seller because you find at yard sales a box of 100 records all the time. Yeah. Now, granted, they're not like you just said, you hardly ever find the $200-$300 ones, even the $30-$40 ones. You're finding like the $8, $10 range, low dollar range. But if you niche down, and Kevin also made a good point about this one time, if you are like one of the top sellers in a category, you can price a little bit higher because you are at the top more often than not of all the search results, and people are coming to you first, and you become the source, if you will, of that category. So I feel like it's a pretty smart business move. Anytime I feel like that if you put your eggs in multiple baskets, you know, like, and the Bible even has something to say about, you know, cast thy bread upon the water.
Yep.
You know, in other words, send it out and it's going to come back. Like, it's not a bad idea to invest in more than one area. So I haven't kept up with that, you know, extensively, but I feel like it's pretty smart. And, you know, Kevin has enough of a following to make something like that a very lucrative idea. And it has a great benefit to the community also.
Right.
As we're talking, you know, how if you were totally disabled and couldn't get out and go to yard sales, now you have some sort of an option. Okay, maybe you don't buy boxes of computer parts, right? Because that's too heavy for you to handle. But a box of hats that's going to weigh 5 pounds when it goes up. I mean, me and Chris talked about that way back at the beginning of this podcast. Like, I made the comment, I think a person could have a store, basically nothing but hats around this area where we're at. Probably where you're at too. I don't know exactly how it is there, but there's in any given weekend at yard sales, if I went looking for nothing but hats, I could probably come home with 50 to 100 hats every weekend.
Yeah.
Probably every day of the week, like every, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I could probably have 30 to 100 hats each day. So, I mean, you think if you showed up with 100 hats a week, that would be enough to run your entire listings.
But see, that's the thing, I think, too, because there's so many people that do niche down, that do specialize in certain things. I think that's the vision, is that, if we look at it then as resellers as a business opportunity as well, instead of thinking, how can we squeeze every dollar out of it? But we're there at the sale anyway. And we know that if we can buy 100 hats over the weekend and only have, say, $50 to $60 in them, that we can turn around and sell them for $200 on Shop Comments to someone that's going to list every one of them individually on eBay, or maybe they got a big whatnot following for hats or something, and they know they're going to be able to get $5 on average a hat. So they run them all on whatnot. If they're paying $200, right, but they can sell them and get $500, you know what I mean? Yeah. They're still doubling their money after the fees and everything are done. I mean, they're still doing well. And I think, that's kind of what it comes down to. It's just finding a way. It's another way to make revenue. I mean, and I think for us, I know there's been enough interest in it. It's been about a week or 2 weeks ago now that Kevin had made a post on Instagram, said that he wasn't taking any more applications, to be sellers on Shop Comments at the moment till he processed the ones he had. And I mean, it's got off to a good start. So, I mean, I think it's pretty awesome idea.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It could take off. I could see it taking off,
Yeah.
Well, in other news, we was talking about this a few minutes ago too. Faith and Paul are going to have a baby.
Yeah. Congratulations.
So, we just wanted to congratulate you guys. I seen that post, and I remember following that week of posts they were making, like, we've got a couple of announcements to make this week, so on and so forth. And about integrations and she hinted to me some time back, like, our team might be growing, and I'm like, oh, that's great. And I didn't have a clue.
Yeah.
But that's just so awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so happy for them. And,
that's great news.
Yeah. Just wishing so much joy.
Be a lucky kid.
Yeah, for sure. Have good parents.
Mm-hmm.
Great parents, for sure. Something else that happened this week, actually today, and this is the reason I've remembered it so well. I was leaving to go to town. I left home, 10 o'clock, something like that, to head to town, drop off packages, make my rounds, and all that good stuff. And you remember the other day we did the giveaway on the live when you was here a couple weeks ago, and we sent a swag bag to the Vintage Codger, who is Doug. I don't know if I should say his last name. I'm about to show his last name here when I pop this up. So I guess it's okay. But Doug Hudson is his name. And he sent me this CD, Doug Hudson, Hymns from the Little Country Church. And I'm telling you what, this boy, he can give you a run for your money, brother. No, I'm kidding. But he's really good, like really good. If you're not familiar with Doug, the Vintage Codger, you can find him on Facebook. He sings, he's got, 4, 5, 10, something like that.
Yeah. Songs
on Facebook. And he's got a great rustic country voice. Mm-hmm. He's got that raspy country sound. But this is all old hymns, like Farther Along, I Feel Like Traveling On, Just Over in the Glory Land. One of my favorites, What a Day That Will Be. And one of my favorite hymns ever, Where We'll Never Grow Old. I mean, and he's got a great sound. But that CD, I listened to the whole CD already, going to town and coming back. Awesome CD. So just wanted to shout out Doug and thank him for that.
Yeah.
He's the Vintage Codger. I know he's on Facebook. Anyway, Doug, you can comment and send me your link for your eBay store, or whatever it is you got, and we'll link that down below too. In the comments, we'll pin it for you.
Social media.
Yeah, something, whatever he's got, we'll pin it down there for him. I don't think it'll let him put it. I don't know. Maybe it will. I don't have a clue what I'm even talking about, Doug.
We
you can message me if you need
we're
to.
actually, you talking about those songs, we talked about this when I was visiting with you, because your church uses the same song book that we do.
Mhm.
There's a hymnal, I think it's produced out of Cleveland, Tennessee is where it's published, but it's called the church hymnal, and it came in more than one color, but the famous color is like a maroon color. They called it the Red Black Himel. It's what it's always been called my whole life. So anyway, there's a group here in Alabama, like it's not like a singing group, but like a group of men and women who go around the state and they host Redback hymn sings. And like our piano player, one of my best friends, he's been a part of it, one of the administrators of the Facebook page now for quite a while. And so we have an annual Redback hymn sing at our church, and we sing those songs. I mean, it's all those songs like you just called out, and many, many more. But that's going to be this Saturday for us. So we got that going on too. We got a busy schedule.
Right now. That'd be so much fun.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff. They have a lot of piano players come in, organ players, piano players. I'll be there at the guitar and some others. Sometimes we have someone come and play bass, but really focusing on the old style, like piano more than anything. The old style, convention style piano playing. It's just, there's nothing like that. It's different. It's unique.
Does Jeremy play a lot of the stuff for you? Or?
He plays some, but now, like I said, well, for church, yes. But now for the Redback Hymn Sing, it's that group that he's a part of. There's probably, I don't know how many will be there with us, but there's usually somewhere between 8 and 10 at least, like pianists and song leaders. Most of them are both. There's a couple of guys. There's one, like his family has been involved with like teaching singing schools, the old shape note stuff. For generations, and he's a young guy. He's like maybe in his 20s, late 20s, early 30s, and he's picked right up behind his grandmother, his mom, his parents, his grandparents, and he's continuing the tradition. He goes around. He did a singing school for us. I think it was last summer. We had one at our church,
cool.
and yeah, it's pretty neat stuff. I remember my mom always talking about that growing up. Like they had singing schools, and they would kind of like they do Vacation Bible School today, that they'd have singing schools. And so all the kids, they would go from church to church as the singing school would move from church to church during the summers and stuff. And they would teach them how to read the music, like the shape notes, how to sing the notes, the so do re mi fa sol la ti do, that stuff. And of course, but how to sing them. Excuse me, not just sing those notes, which they would learn those, but then how to sing the songs, learn their parts, the alto, the soprano, the bass, the lead, the baritone, whatever, where their part was in the hymnal, and sing correctly. And not that we have to sing, so formally all the time, but it's a great thing to be able to learn to do. It's just like learning an instrument, the more you know about it, the better it is. So
whatsoever I do it with all I might, right?
That's it.
Do it with all I might.
Or as I say, you sing by letter rip.
Let her rip. That's right.
Yeah. Jeremy had made a post on Facebook, our piano player. He said something about, he named a couple of those hymns like you just called out and said, had this picture of someone just reared back singing, you could tell they was letting it fly. And he said, which hymns make you want to sing like this? And I said, when I responded, it's something to the effect of, well, I reckon me well enough to know that I approach them all the same way. It's 100% pedal to the metal. You let it fly. And I believe in everything we do, be it singing or anything else. When we're doing something, we should do it as to give glory to God in it. And if we're doing it with Him in mind, then we should always want to do our very best. And whatever our 100% is, that's what we should be wanting to give. That's why this video I'm making for my channel about a day in the life, that's why I'm struggling a little bit, because I feel like I'm giving like 60 and 70% or less to a lot of things, because I have so many irons in the fire. And that's a stressful thing to feel when you're used to kind of really going at everything, full speed. So you have to sometimes, step it back a little bit and just figure out how to balance everything out with life. There's
only so much of you, sir. You've got to know how to. Somebody told me one time to learn my limits, and I'm like,
you've been in my presence. There's a little bit more of me than what.
Well, same here.
Divide it,
We kind of hide
Yeah.
a lot of the rest of us on the show. So let's get into a sale of the week. Why don't we?
Let's do it.
Talk
I've got
about
an exciting one.
Okay, you go for it.
I was kidding. No, I had some pretty good sales this week. Sales were up a little bit for me. It's been slow during the summer for me, but of course a lot of that's because of everything else going on. But I sold a pair of shoes that sold for $80, $79.95. It was a pair of Hokas that were just like brand new. I picked them up. I didn't even have to clean them or nothing. They were the like black on black, the Bundys, women's Hokas, and they were the slip resistant soles. So it's the ones, people buy different brands, but it's the ones like you'll see people like in food service and things like that wearing when they're on the tile. So they had that really high grade rubber sole on them.
Okay.
So like I said, they were basically brand new and sold for $80. So
that's
$80
awesome.
plus shipping. So
that's awesome.
Sold a bunch of music this week too.
I'm not surprised.
I think I'm working my way up the you said the top rated. I think I'm working my way up the pole position there on the British bands anyway,
I wouldn't doubt it. Man, they can't be that much of that stuff listed. I mean,
every time I look one up, there's like 8 or 10 or maybe only 3 listed or sold on most of that. So
oh my gosh.
In that little section of music, I've got to be one of the most, right now. It's going to go because it's selling. I won't be there anymore, but
yeah.
But right now, I'm getting a lot of repeat buyers. There's people that buy one, and as I'm putting more stuff on, they keep looking through. They keep coming back to the store, and they'll buy again.
That's what's so awesome about that. They're going to save you, and then every time you post something, it's going to get a notification. And like 10 years from now, well, maybe not 10 years, but say a year from now, if you throw more music out there, you've got these people looking for it already. So that's one of the best things about that.
The crazy thing about all that is, and I know we didn't get to your sale, I'm just saying, but the crazy thing about all that is I have now listed all the DVDs. I've listed all the box sets, and I finished listing, by the way, I finished listing all of the regular music, the CDs. I've got one priority mail, the 12 by 12 box, out of everything that I bought of that. Now I've still got some other stuff, and I'll tell you about it real quick, but there was like 12 boxes, I think it was. 10 of the boxes was what I've listed. So I've listed 10 of these double stacked, double layered boxes of music and DVDs. And out of everything that I've been through, out of those 10 boxes, I've got one priority mailbox of stuff that I didn't list. That's how much of it I weeded out. That's all. And out of that, I'll go back and make large lots out of. I'll figure out a way to lot them together. But I'm saying, like, I was able to do artist lots, like individual artists, and single CDs out of that much of that collection. And at this, I took the shoe boxes and taped them and cut them in half, the priority shoe boxes, because they're perfect size for CDs.
Yeah.
So then I just stuck sheets in a paper. So I got my A's, B's, C's, D's as I listed by artist first name, or not first name of artist, but by band name or artist last name.
Yeah.
And I forget now how many I've got.
Aerosmith would be under Smith, right?
Yeah, that's it. But it's sold. I've probably sold over half of what I've listed already. I mean, I have almost none of the box sets left. I sold another one of those that have been kind of hanging on this last week. And I've got 2 large boxes still that I have not gone through that is vintage, mostly contemporary Christian music, but it's band like Petra, or it's those rock Christian band. I know there's going to be some gems in it because of what it is. And there's two double layer. I mean, I don't know how many is in there, but there's probably 300 or 400 of those CDs that I still got to go through and sort through. Plus, the only box I haven't listed yet, I've got a priority box that's nearly completely full of nothing but Beatles CDs that I kept out because there's some of those that are, really valuable.
I'll give you $20 for that.
I mean, it blows my mind. I've made probably 5 or 6 sales within the last week that were, $20 to $50 out of that again, just this last week.
I would love to see how much you've actually made.
I'm going to work on that. That's one of my goals in the next week or so, is kind of get a number together.
Make that into a video. That would be a killer video.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking to do.
Because
now that I got it all listed,
that has to be one of the best, dollar to dollar, one of the best performances. How am I trying to say that? Dollar for dollar, you had to have made one of the best turnarounds.
Yeah,
I've ever heard of.
One of the best flips.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a single
work, right?
Yeah, it's not a single item. It's a lot of work. It's been a lot of work going through it and trying to figure out, wiping down, cleaning, all the different stuff you do. but considering the amount of money I spent, and I mean, I made everything that I spent back in a lot of profit within the first couple of weeks.
Oh yeah.
And I've been listing this off and on now for months because it was just so much to go through. And they kept wanting to charge me insertion fees because I was listing so much music. I was exceeding my limit on music, month to month. So I'd have to stop for a while. I wouldn't pay in the list.
You noticed that? I'd probably never noticed that until I just had this huge.
Shoot, man! It pops up a notification that says, like when you normally hit list. As soon as you click list, it's going to be 25 cents. Like, no, thank you, no, thank you. I'll wait till next month.
Yep, next. All right, are you done with your sale of the week now? Finally.
Sure. I mean, I just had other stuff. We talked about how we're not a resale program so much, 100%. And that's all we've talked about today.
I know. What's wrong with us? So Tanya sold more silverware.
Oh, shocker.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's what pretty much saved our weekend. I mean, we sold a few things, like we sold 6 items. I sold a lot of you remember the Pokemon cards?
Yeah.
You was with me when we got those. I lotted up 75 of those and sold those for $60.
Wow.
And there wasn't nothing necessarily, outstanding. There might have been a couple of $7, $8 cards in there, but nothing outstanding.
But they were first generation, right?
They were old. Yeah, 90,
they were
96. No, 95 through 98. That was the years on the cards.
Yeah, they
were back there. But they sold. The bad thing was I really don't think I underpriced it too much. But you list something 3 minutes later, it sells. You get that feeling like I really undersold myself. These sold like 5 minutes later. So
well, I don't know. I was going to say, I think it's probably one of those things, Caleb, like if there's someone that specializes in those, like in cards and especially, Pokemon, Dragon Balls, whatever the different, types of them are, Magic the Gathering, when they specialize in that stuff and they know it very well. I think for me, like if I was buying, there's always this other side of it that, yes, there may not have been a huge dollar card in the lot, like something that was like of its own ungraded, but you're probably also thinking, okay, is there some gradable stuff in here that's $10, but if it gets the right grade, it might be worth $100.
Right.
And so people that are always sending off bulk lots to be graded, there may be some cards in there they saw that was definitely worth sending off to grade just to see if they hit on one of them,
And that is, it's a possibility, but I don't know if it's very strong. But there's a couple. I mean, there was some nice cards in there, but nothing outstanding. But I did sell another one for $12 or $11. So I was happy with that.
Yeah.
But our actual sale of the week, as I said, is more silverware. So without getting too far in depth, a person messaged me wanting to know if I would make a special deal. Basically, they wanted an odd number of forks, and I had them set up in 3s. They needed 7. So would I be willing to sell one more individual fork for whatever I wanted to sell it for, basically? And then they wanted one of another 2 different items, 1 pieces, and those were set up in 4s and 3s also. So I said, well, basically what they told me they was going to buy it's $216. And I was like, if you're going to spend that much money, I'll throw them other couple of pieces, which equals out to be about $40. I'll throw that in for free because you're spending so much already. And that made the sale, right? Yeah. So that's just business, trying to win business, whatever. But yeah, we basically, let's see, it was 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 pieces of silverware for $216. So yeah, I'm still good with that because I've literally got, hold on, I'll do the math. I'll tell you, it was less than 10 cents per piece, but let's just, for math's sake, right? Because I'm not a math person, but for math's sake, 10 cents times, what did I say? 13 pieces, 12 pieces?
It's a whole $1.30.
$1.30. Was you doing that quicker than me?
I don't know. I mean, it's just, that's the easy math.
It is, but I mean, $1.30 flipped into 200. By the time I shipped, I paid $5 to ship it. I paid literally $1.30 to buy it. I put my box, put my paper, and my fees. I mean, I'm going to make an easy $190, $180 on $1.30. Like, where do you do that?
Yeah. Oh,
your CDs might come out to be something.
Well, that's the thing, because I'm probably into those for I mean, maybe for like 25 or 30 cents. It may be less. I mean, I honestly never did do an official count of them. When I go back and start doing my number that I've sold, I'm going to also write down, because I had some lots, so I know exactly how many pieces I bought, and I can go back and know exactly the amount that I had in them. But now I still got to go through those other two boxes and the Beetle stuff to really know that still. I mean, I've got hundreds still sitting here that have to be added to that total number of CDs to go into that, what, $400 or whatever it was I spent.
Man,
So
that's
I
awesome.
mean, it's not going to be much. I mean, it may be closer to 10 cents, and if it is,
Can't be much.
yeah,
Honestly.
I mean, that's why I haven't bellyached. Even though I know Lori Happy Picker, she does these little shorts on Instagram, and sometimes I think on YouTube too, where she does what she calls a NOLO. It's the things you shouldn't buy to resell. But the thing is, like, a lot of these CDs that I'm selling for those types of prices, sometimes I'm not selling a bunch really low, but I've sold quite a few between, say, $5 and $7, which a lot of people avoid. But my thing is this: by the time I know that's what it sells for, I've already did all the research. I've already got the comp pulled up. All I got to do is click sell similar, take a picture of the front, a picture of the back, open it up, take a picture of the inside, and I'm done. If
Yeah.
it's that, I'm saying if it's only a $5 CD, I'm not worried about trying to show them all these reflective images of the backside. It's a
Yeah.
$5 CD. I'll tell you the condition. I'll take the risk. But for 10 to 20 cents into $5, and when you can have two or three of those go out every week, well, then my idea is this: that means it's $15 to $20 for a 30 to 75 cent investment when I sell three of them, even though they're individual listings.
Yeah.
It's still worth it. I mean, because I'm already there. I'm already at the finish line of making the listing. By the time it's like, well, that's not worth listing. It's not like being out in the store comping it. I would never buy it off the shelf, but it's already come in the box. It's already in my possession. I've already scanned it. I'm at home. I'm literally right there at it. Same way with you on the silverware, though. Like,
I
the
mean,
profit
yeah,
margin is incredible.
you've already done the work. Why not get the reward by that point, right?
Exactly.
Exactly right. Well, that's cool. All right, let's hit our comment of the week.
Let's do it.
I picked out the same guy I mentioned a minute ago, Vintage Codger Doug, that sent me the CD, and I picked his comment. I was thinking of Doug when the CD showed up today, and he said, "My station here starts Christmas music on Thanksgiving night, and my station doesn't change until they stop on January 1st." He said, "Great show, guys. Hope y'all have a great weekend coming up." And man, I am so jealous of y'all's radio stations, because ours, we was in our town's been a small town traditionally for my life, but once it got to that point where we became a mid-sized town, not a small town really, the radio station kind of went with it. So now, yeah, literally, they don't start Christmas music till like the week of Christmas.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
I need that. Everybody's probably thinking you guys are nuts, but I love it. I love to hear
Yeah.
Christmas music. And I'm not talking about, you know, a lot of it now that's really overdone Christmas music. I'm talking about the old Silent Night, Jingle Bells,
Yeah.
Hark the Herald Angels sings, all the
Grandma got run over by a reindeer.
the old good stuff. Grandma got run over by a reindeer. What's your comment of the week?
I want a hippopotamus for Christmas, All right, comment of the week for me. I'm going to read my comment, but I want to mention two other posts on the tail end of it. I went with Happy Picker, Lori. If you've never met Lori and Kyle, Happy and Grumpy Picker, absolute awesome folks. Lord willing, nothing happens, we're going to get to visit with them in a few weeks. They're coming through the area and going to stop by, so we're excited about that. Getting to hang out with them a little bit again. We met them in Omaha in person when we went to the meetup out there. And anyway, she said, like I didn't already have FOMO for missing out, now it's worse. Thanks. But hey, I guess, the stories we told and the experience, I'm glad that it has that effect. The last thing we want to do is talk about how it went, and people are like, I don't think I want to go to that, so
Yeah.
we are hoping to see some of our other friends that weren't able to make it maybe get to come this next year. And I was going to mention Granny Grandma left a comment, said something about she still was waiting on you in the parking lot.
Yeah, and Tanya threatened to take me back to said parking lot.
And then I really thought, because we talked about the milk story last week, and I really thought I did want to briefly mention the story that Woody told. If you haven't checked out Reselling with Woody, check him out. But he told this story about when he was a kid working on a dairy farm, and how many I don't have the comment written down. Remember how many head of cattle it was? It was 100 and.
Oh man, I can't remember. I'll look it up while you're telling.
Yeah, it was really good. I mean, it was just a great little story, And I mean, he finished it kind of saying, that every kid should have to have that experience. But he said he loved it. Looking back, it was just a great time. But I mean, it sounded to me like it would be a lot of work. He was the only one managing the milking of the cows on that dairy during that time. So
160 head twice a day.
160 head milked twice a day. That's
320 times,
And look, if you've met Woody, you can say, well, you know what? I have no doubt he can get the job done. Would
Absolutely.
he
be out there slinging milk everywhere, son?
Yeah. So, I just got one question, Woody. Did you ever drink any of it while it was warm?
Don't answer that. Please don't answer that.
What was it? Who was it that said something about take it straight out of the udder?
I think that was me.
Was that you that said that last week?
Yeah, I believe.
I've heard of that, but like I said, I don't care for warm milk, but
I've never liked warm milk at all. Like that just, to me, that feels like it's going to curdle in my mouth. Like, I just no thanks.
Let me ask you a question, and before anybody comments, regarding this, I know that not all cows are brown. Okay, I'm aware. I'm surrounded by cows. But how does a brown cow eat green grass and make white milk?
Yeah, good question. I don't know.
I mean, it's crazy, ain't it?
It is.
So
one of the mysteries of God's creations, right? How things happen. Well, what else, man? What else? We got let's hit up a little wrestling history. You ready?
Let's do it.
All right. For life.
Let me go first.
Yeah, go for it. Unless you stole mine, then
I don't think I did. Probably, maybe, I don't know. It's not a huge event, really, but it's the only time this happened, and I thought it was kind of cool. Did I get yours?
I don't know. Maybe.
Has it got HBK in it?
No, go for it.
Okay, so we're good. All right. So I mentioned the little sale that I stopped at today in those hardcover wrestling books, and this is when I was looking through the events that happened during this week. This is kind of what probably led me this way. Two of the books that they had, one was Shawn Michaels, and the other was on Hogan's life. And they're all really nice, man. They're awesome books. I have to show them to you sometime. But anyway, before I sell them. But SummerSlam 2005, it was the very first time and the only time that Shawn Michaels and Hulk Hogan went head-to-head in a singles match.
What a match.
And Hogan wound up taking the win. So, I mean, those are two, icons of the wrestling business. And it really blows my mind still to think about the fact that they only actually met up because they were in the same promotion enough that it could have happened more than that. I don't know if it had to do with when they were, because sometimes there's injuries and some are performing when others aren't. Sometimes even though they're in there during the same time period, they're not both at the top. They're not both in the storyline at the right place. But however they did it, they were able to be in the wrestling business for that many. I mean, you're talking about decades, both of them, where their careers were coinciding, and only one time did they ever meet up.
Well, that's an interesting story you have there. That was during the time Shawn didn't want to. The story goes he didn't want to lose to Hogan.
He didn't want to drop it. Yeah, I've heard that too.
If you go back and watch the match, Shawn is super selling. Like he is cartoonishly selling everything Hogan does. Like Hogan throws him into the corner and he flips over, does the Ric Flair flip, and then flops around and he punches him and he hits the mat and does a flip. And I mean, like super selling. But you talk about how they never met up, Hogan was on his way out of WWE in 93. King of the Ring 93 was his last appearance when he lost the title to Yokozuna. Well, Shawn hadn't really hit it big until around 96 when he won the Royal Rumble. I think it was 96. He went on to WrestleMania 12 and beat Bret Hart for the title. That was his first title win. So there's kind of a little bit of a discrepancy there. Shawn wasn't on Hogan's level yet.
Right.
And then Hogan took off to WCW and didn't come back to the WWE until 2002, I believe it was.
Yeah, it was after the merger a little ways.
It was after the merger, after the invasion, because Turner had a lot of the big name guys, Hogan, Savage, Flair, Sting, Goldberg, the Outsiders. All those guys were under Turner contracts, guaranteed pay. So they sat at home and drew money. And I'll blame them a bit.
Exactly.
So Hogan shows back up. It might have been 2003, I think. Him, Hall, and Nash showed up.
Yeah.
No Way Out, 2003, I think. In like February, March, April, somewhere in 2003. Tell me if I'm wrong down in the comments, but I think I'm right. But yeah, so it was, and Shawn hadn't been back that long after they came back. He made his return around 2002, somewhere in that range, because his back injury in 98 was really bad. Kept him out for 4 years till he finally got to where he could wrestle again. So yeah, they pretty
Will,
much,
he was talking to you, Will, just in case you're wondering. with your t-shirts you're planning to be making. I can't wait to see that. I think it's a threat, but
don't think it is definitely a threat.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just a threat though, just idle words, just
idle words. That's right.
Yeah. But you do know your wrestling history, so straighten us out if we're wrong on something.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so my selection this week is one of the most iconic botches in wrestling history. It was 1993. WCW was putting on one of their. They had like a couple times a year they had Clash of the Champions, and it was a TBS special, like on television. I used to love watching those because it would be on television, whereas pay-per-views you could only purchase pay-per-view. So Clash of the Champions was kind of like a mini pay-per-view, like quality matches with big name people, and this was Clash of the Champions 24. Vader fought Davey Boy Smith, the British Bulldog, to retain the championship. But during that show was the debut of the Shockmaster.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You remember the Shockmaster.
He's backstage debut, right?
Yeah, you got Sting and the British Bulldog face-to-face with Sid, and I think it was, I can't remember who the other guy was. But there were 4 or 5 of them out there talking, getting in each other's faces, and Sting says something like, "Our partner is going to shock you. He's shocking." And here comes the Shockmaster busting through a gimmicked sheetrock wall that has basically nothing behind it. And he busts through and he falls flat on his face. His helmet goes flying off, which is basically a stormtrooper from Star Wars helmet with glitter all over it. Yeah. And he's on the ground. He grabs his helmet real quick, jumps up, starts talking. It's iconic moment. Yeah. But the Shockmaster was also, people will remember Tugboat or Typhoon. Fred Ottman was his name, but he was along with Earthquake, one half of the Natural Disasters back in WWE.
Yeah.
Yeah, good times right there.
Natural disasters.
Natural disasters.
Well, they were a good ode to the common man. I'll put it that way. They were big guys, but they were also big guys. Yeah,
for sure.
You wouldn't run into them on the street and thought those are probably professional wrestlers.
No, they did not look the part. Like they, Earthquake was probably 400 pounds.
Oh man, probably at least,
and just round.
I mean, they didn't put a lot of thought into that name. I mean,
it was. What are we going to call this guy? Jelly Bean. Earthquake. What are we going to call him? Because he's just a round big man, but they was very popular back in the day. All right, you ready to? I'm pretty sure I won again this week. By the way, I thought
it was 1 vote to 1 vote.
No, that's always been established that if it's a tie, I win.
Okay, whatever. We cut up a lot about this competition we have. We do a lot of laughing about it.
Do we?
We do. We laugh about it every week. I just laugh more than you do.
Yeah, that's because my jokes are better.
No.
All right, here we go. I'm gonna hit you with mine real quick, right out the gate.
Go for it. Do it.
So, have you heard about the new sport called quiet tennis?
I haven't.
Well, it's like normal tennis, but without the racket. Oh,
man,
no laugh whatsoever. Oh, that's bad.
I mean,
I'm losing this week.
Well, I'm just going to warn that mine is not off color, but it's a little bit off odor. So, so we've all heard the phrase "pooping is the call of nature," right?
Yeah.
And if farting is a missed call, then what is constipation? A blocked call.
Oh,
and so then
did you hear the kids laughing in there?
So then what's that mixture when you have a shart?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Do you know?
No, I do not.
Caller ID.
Oh, Lord have mercy. You got the kids laughing in the living room. That's how bad that was.
How bad it was. You mean how good it was?
I crown you champion this week. I give you the belt. Oh, wow.
No, the caller ID part made me laugh out loud when I first saw it. That one got me. Caller ID.
Wow.
I would say if we was in a live audience, I'd say raise your hand if you've been a victim of caller ID.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, Oxy clean, here we come, right?
Burn barrels, more like it. Don't even mess around with it. I don't want to clean the washer after that. Oh, goodness.
Lord have mercy.
What a great way to end this show, by the way. That is just quality ending right there.
Hey, when you get desperate, you swing low.
I guess.
Well, depending on the situation, it can be a good strategy.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, guys, for being here with us again. Episode 65, marching on towards that 100 mark. And we will see you guys again next week here on the Two Old Guys Reselling Podcast.
Be here before you know it. You guys take care.
See you guys.